Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And as often happens on the program over the last 11 years, I wind up going into certain record shops and finding these obscure albums that I'm not exactly sure what it holds, but I look at the instrumentation and I look at the cats on the album and I say, this has some potential. I mean, it's not going to be Love Supreme, but it might have a chance to swing a little bit. And sure enough, I found this album, Starbuck, Moonlight Feels Right, and it is really one of the most groovy, burning albums I've ever heard in my life. And as I'm wont to do, I started to look up cats who still might be around from this band, and in fact stumbled upon the leader, a lead singer, a guy who was part of Eternity's Children, and has just been doing a lot of seminal work. I hate labels, but he crosses over many different musical genres. Bruce Blackman, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thanks, man. Nice words.
You're welcome, man. Hey, can you just talk a little bit about the exposure you had to, like, organ jazz, or what kind of jazz, live jazz exposure did you have growing up in Cleveland?
Well, actually, I grew up in Greenville, Mississippi.
You grew up in Greenville. Mississippi has been on my mind. Do you know the legendary? Now I'm spacing on his name. It'll come to me. So anyway, where's there? So I guess it was more blues laden than anything else.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, organ-wise, very much, our keyboard, Ahmad Jamal and Jimmy Smith.
Now, did they actually come through on a circuit, or you just were listening to the records?
Mostly listening to records, although I did hear Jimmy Smith live, and also another one that greatly influenced me was Dave Brubeck, which I was at a Dave Brubeck concert, and I was sitting about 10 feet away from his piano, absorbing every finger that he moved.
I mean, can you just talk a little bit about I think maybe the better question would be when you recognize. I mean, so many cats today. I mean, I'm 43. I have a couple of daughters. They're both coming up learning to play music, and so much of it is there's a pedagogy, and there's books on this, and everything's visual. Bruce, you guys were all autodidacts. I have no doubt that some of you learned how to read, but you all learned to hear the music before you learned to read it. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about sort of your experiential learning of music growing up.
Well, I started out in music and wrote my first song when I was in the fourth grade. They had a music department, and everyone was issued this little plastic Bakelite flute called a tonette, and they had a citywide tonette playing contest, and 6 of us made the finals. 5 of the people played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and I played Flight of the Bumblebee.
Wow.
And so I won and then they told the junior high band director about me. So in the 4th grade, he came over to the elementary school, and he handed me a trumpet. And he said, "You're going to be my first year trumpet player." His name was Peyton Crowder, and so he came over twice a week and gave me trumpet lessons. So my musical training, formal musical training, was on a trumpet. And then I ended up being in the band, and then I ended up getting out of the band because I was an athlete. And the coaches I couldn't play on the football team and march in the halftime shows, and band director didn't like it, the football coach didn't like it. So,
man, you were swing. You couldn't swing. Well, you weren't exactly in the rhythm section. I mean, that is unbelievable. Were you? I mean, I know that you eventually went in the direction of sports, but were you as far as like a band, were you guys playing the pop music of the day, which was jazz? Were you playing John Philip Sousa? What kind of tunes were you playing?
Oh no, we were playing in the early days when we first formed Starbuck.
Yeah.
The only copy music we ever played was Steely Dan.
Dude,
Stevie
you
Wonder,
guys are freaking
Billy
the
Cobham,
coolest band. Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say what? Billy Cobham?
Yeah.
You were playing like what, like Stratus? What tunes were you playing on?
I don't even remember.
Dude,
the
this
names,
is the sickest. No, I want to go back.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
We also played stuff like Average White Band because we had 6 mini modes. And even when I did Moonlight Feels Right, I always thought in terms of big band arrangements and horns, so I just used mini modes just like they were horns.
Right. So there was I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, I think Starbuck might be my new favorite band, dude. I mean, this is like the greatest group of cats I've ever, and actually it's very. But no, I want to go back to the early '60s. Like that was Greenville time for you, basically.
Yes.
So right. like that's like what kind of tunes you weren't? I mean, were you playing Dixieland? I mean, what kind of tunes were you playing?
No. We were real. I mean, most people thought we were from California. We put the group together called Eternity's Children.
Right.
And 3 of us were from Greenville. So we ended up going to L.A. and we got a record deal with A&M Records. We were the first act ever signed with A&M Records.
This is unbelievable. I just wanted to say that. Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
Well, we had a record called Rumors. It was produced by Keith Olsen.
Rest in peace, dude. Rest in peace. Great, amazing producer. Yeah.
Yeah, well, our song was called Rumors. And interestingly enough, the big album that he produced on Fleetwood Mac was called Rumors.
Unbelievable.
But anyway, our song only went to number 107, and A&M dropped us. But then we immediately got signed by Liberty Records, and we had my first Billboard chart song was Mrs. Bluebird, which was... I think it went to around number 45 or so. I mean, it was just it hit top 10 in most of the southeastern states, but it didn't go national.
This is phenomenal. I mean, okay, so the cat I'm thinking about, do you know a cat named Sid Herring?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
with the Gants? Are you kidding?
Dude, I'm telling you, I do. No.
Sanders, with the guitar player with Sid, was on the track team with me at Mississippi State. Johnny was the pole vaulter.
You know, I'm telling you, I have goosebumps right now because, I mean, we're just getting hip to each other. I've been 2,000 interviews, 11 years on doing my podcast at this point, and I've covered a lot of regional music scenes, and only in the last couple of months I've gotten ping-ponged. I found this band that Sid was in on a record. I interviewed Sid. He connected me with it. So he was in the Gants. Then he connected me with Larry Raspberry from the Gentrys. So I just interviewed him.
Keep on dancing, keep on.
You got it. And then it's all based on records. And then I found Starbuck, and I'm like, dude, where is Brother Blackman, man? This is unbelievable, dude. It's all coming together. So just talk to the audience because this is so interesting. How did you guys just pack up the Volkswagen and drive across the country? Why did you decide to go to the West Coast? I can't imagine there was an offer up front.
Oh, no. In fact, what we did is we saved up $200, and I flew by myself to L.A. I mean, the flight was like $39 in, and I checked in the Gene Autry Continental. Didn't know anything about anything. And I went downstairs, and there was a little newsstand there, and it had a little pamphlet. It said, "A Guide to Music Record Companies." I went, that's what I need. So I bought it. I opened it up, and it was in alphabetical order. And the first one listed was A&M. I'd never even heard of A&M. I had a tape with me that was Rumors, and we had recorded A Taste of Honey, done the horn parts with vocals. We had 5 singers in a 5-piece band. So I asked the concierge, I said, where is this La Brea? Where is that? He said, well, it's just right there. He said, just turn to the corner. He said, the A&M studios will be right on your left. It's the old Charlie Chaplin studios. And they're working on it right now. I said, you can't miss it. It's the archway, brown archway. So I walked around the corner. Sure enough, there they were. I walked in. It was U-shaped, 2 stories. Carpenters were around building stuff, and I looked up right at the first top left, and the door was ajar, and it said President. So I went, well, that's where I need to go. So I went in there and walked in the door, and there was this real good-looking Spanish guy sitting there. And he looked up at me and went, oh, "What, you got a tape?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Okay, give it to me."
Hmm.
He turned around, played the tape, and he turned back around, and he said, "What, you want a record deal?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Okay." Pulled out a contract. I signed it. And the guy was Herb Alpert. And I hadn't even put it together that I did not know that Herb Alpert was the A of A&M, whose big hit was an instrumental called "A Taste of Honey."
So wait a minute for a second. Okay, so that's right. And I've done 2 interviews with Herb that I'll send you. That is so beautiful. So you covered his tune back in Mississippi. That was one of the tunes. So did he listen to your cover of that tune?
Yeah, about half of it.
Bruce, man, I mean, okay, so I mean, just going back to, I mean, have you always led? When did you realize that you were a conduit for music coming through you from the heavens? I mean, the idea of what I really wanted to ask you before is when Jimmy Smith would be playing, and again, I mean, I never saw him, and actually I did see him. That's wrong. I saw him later in his career, but that dude would burn. He would heal your psyche just through rhythm. And I just wonder, like, when did, I guess maybe the better question for you as a younger cat, like, meaning before you even, maybe just growing up, like, were you guided by the spirit? I mean, to me, it sounds like zero hassle. You went to L.A., had a couple bucks in your pocket, walked outside to a newsstand, wound up at A&M Records, boom, you're the first act. I mean, it doesn't, that doesn't happen in real life.
No, see, nobody told me you couldn't do that. Everybody would have said, "Oh, you got to have a lawyer, you got to have a manager."
That's right.
All that
That's right.
stuff,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I was walking around going, "Damn, look at all these tall buildings." I didn't know anything.
So, you're telling me that it was basically a fledgling company. They had. I mean, Herb did he put out any albums before that, or you were the first band?
We were the first I believe we were the first outside act. I'm not sure if his albums or records were on A&M. Probably, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think like Whipped Cream, like the Taste of Honey, like that's definitely on A&M. So you were.
So I met another starving songwriter at that time at the A&M studios was David Gates.
Oh, dude, that is so.
Who ended up with the bread,
Oh my God, dude, David Gates. I mean, you guys were starving to death. No, wait, hold on. So what happened at that time? What did it mean to have a record contract when he gave you that? What did that entail? Some free.
We just thought it was that was it. It turned out it didn't hit, but we were just on cloud 9. We went out to L.A. and then we ended up getting a Kevin Deveridge. Who managed the Animals at the time.
Yeah,
he signed us for management, and then I was over at Kevin's house one night, and Eric Burden was in there, and I was playing the piano, and he found out I was from Mississippi, and he went crazy because he was a huge fan, as the Rolling Stones were, of that Mississippi Delta blues music. Well, I grew up playing a lot. I mean, I could play boom, 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 da, 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 all that kind of stuff. John Lee Hooker and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And Eric went nuts. And the first gig we did in L.A., we opened for the Doors at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Right. What's also about Sid Herring is that the Gants went on tour with the Animals. It's interesting. There must be some connection there because the Animals were coming out to that part of the country and they were doing that circuit, which is pretty remarkable. No, what I meant was was there, it was just like you had access to the studio? Were you given any kind of budget at all? What was in that record contract?
No, nothing. If we'd sold 10 million records, we probably would have made $500 a piece. It was for 4% of wholesale.
Okay, so it's 4%, but I mean, did you have access to the A&M studio? What?
No, we didn't. We went and we recorded. We only did the one single with A&M, and that was it. Then we signed with Liberty Records, and then we recorded Mrs. Bluebird and that stuff at a studio in Dallas, Texas.
Amazing.
We didn't have a studio budget for that, that they just simply, but we cut the whole album about 2 days, and they paid for it,
So,
but we didn't have an exact budget.
So Herb signs you, and you call the band up, and you say, like, "Yo, we're making a 45," or what? Tell me a little bit about how that first track came about.
Well, it was just a song that I wrote, and after we got that deal, I flew back. We were working at a place called the Vapors in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I came back, and then we all decided we got to get out of Mississippi, and so we went out to L.A. Didn't really work out for us, and then management. There was another management company involved, and I was living like a refugee, and I just got really tired of it. So I left the band, and then one by one, the other members. I came to Atlanta at that time, 1969, and started putting a band together, and it ended up being sort of an offshoot of Eternity's Children, because Bo Wagner, the Vibes marimba player, was with me. Johnny Walker, the guitar player from Eternity's Children, was with me. So it was about half of Eternity's Children that became Starbuck.
So you were living like a refugee, but you, in between, somewhere in that time, you guys went out to Dallas to record Miss Bluebird?
Yeah, we just went to Dallas because Keith Olsen had a deal, and Kurt Betcher also had a deal with some studio there. They got real good rates, and so that's where we drove to Dallas and recorded for a couple of days.
You didn't by chance. They didn't. You didn't by chance. Because that was, some legendary cats like Ronnie Tutt, Dean Parks. Those studio cats were out in Dallas. Did you have any studio sharks cut that tune with you, or was it just your band?
No, it was just a band.
Just your band.
Uh-huh.
And then explain to the audience that will be listening to this. Ultimately, in that time, Bruce, how would your song find its way into the southeastern part of the United States? It's just so funny because now we're saturated with so much material. A lot of it's visual. A lot of it's very mediocre. Back then, it was... Well, take us through. When did you start to catch a little fire with Miss Bluebird? Where did it start? In Mississippi?
Started in New Orleans. New Orleans, Louisiana.
Wow.
Because, we were playing... we were the number one draw. We played at a place called the Vapors that held about 2,000 people.
It was a basement club, right?
No, that's where we started.
Okay.
We drew so many people to this little basement club that the guy from the Vapors, that was about a 2,000 capacity, came and offered us, a much better deal to be sort of the house band at the Vapors. We used to back up everybody.
Right, B.J. Thomas and stuff like that.
Do what?
Who like B.J. Thomas? Who?
Yeah, B.J. Thomas, Dallas Frazier, Bobby Goldsboro, the Crystals, Robert Parker, Barefoot. This is a whole host of them.
Now, you guys, that is so. This is just so important because those cats that you just mentioned, that's kind of like pretty. I don't want to say formula trip stuff, but if cats are going to see, B.J. Thomas, these cats, they kind of want to hear the songs, the hit songs, the way they were played on the record. Yet, the thing that caught my attention about Starbuck, and I know that we're jumping all around here, is it fair to say that you guys had instrumental chops to stretch out? Maybe you didn't do it in the live show backing people up, but did you improvise a lot?
Oh, my goodness, are you kidding?
I need tapes of this immediately, dude. Immediately.
Yeah, that marimba solo that's is world famous now that Bo Wagner did. That was an impromptu solo. When we recorded Moonlight Feels Right, I did a B3 solo first, and it didn't sound right. Then I tried a clavinet, that didn't sound right. We were just about to run out of time and tried on the marimba. So we went out there and mic'd his marimba up, ran the tape, boom. He played
I cannot wait to listen back to that. No, like when you were the house band at the Vapors, right? What now? Just as a band, if it was late at 2 a.m, would you get into would you stretch it? Did you have tunes that lent themselves to improvisational, music?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Because, we played sets we couldn't get through the night with singing that much.
Yeah, I know, right.
Because we did a lot of 4 and 5 part doing. The covers we did were "I see that worried look upon your face, da 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 da."
Oh,
you got your trouble, that kind of stuff, and Mamas and the Papas, and you couldn't do it. So we had instrumentals. We had original instrumentals that we would play, or during a song and do a solo instead of just a guitar. We'd just go around and let everybody do a solo and just stretch them out.
Now, what was the name of that band back then?
Eternity's Children.
Okay, so it was Eternity's Children. Do you have any bootlegs? I just would love to. I mean, to me, the one thing that I love about you, man, already is that you are, absolutely adamant about doing original music. It wasn't like you were doing after midnight covers. Maybe you were, but I mean, like, Mountain Jam, Allman Brothers. You were doing your own original tunes. I mean, are there? Because the record. I mean, whatever. The records are the records, and you got to keep things short for radio play. But do you have any recordings of you guys playing live and going, like, really going?
Sure. Get on YouTube. Type in. We played live on Don Kirshner's In Concert. We did a song called Little Bird. It's like. We also did an instrumental on there, and these things are like 6-7 minutes.
Oh, dude!
long.
All right, so Kirshner, YouTube,
Starbuck,
and Starbuck, not Eternity's Children, Starbuck.
No, Starbuck.
Okay, so
there's tons of videos, but especially that, and that's live too. The sound quality isn't that good because they didn't really have. They had an 8-in mixer, and we had 16 keyboards on the stage alone, so. But
wow.
You'll see.
Well, no, I'll check that. No, but I want you to talk to Cats about how you learned. I'm going back to Eternity's Children here when you guys were playing. What was the 2000 seater called?
The Vapors.
The Vapors. Like, did you learn to improvise on the bandstand? I mean, how did you guys learn to? Because that is when to leave the. I mean, Miles Davis. I mean, it was to me like. That was a revolutionary time when they'd be playing My Funny Valentine and leave the head of the tune, and you kind of didn't recognize what the tune was because they'd go out for 20 minutes, but then they'd all come back into the tune again. And whether or not you were hip to that or not at the time, that to me was absolutely inspirational to cats who might have been considered garage band players or just sort of guys that were just, folk musicians. Just you tell your story. How did you learn to stretch out and leave the head of the tune and blow?
Well, the first place, going back to Eternity's Children, the same was true of Starbuck. When we put it together, everybody was already pretty accomplished players.
Wow.
I mean, they had already put in their 20,000 hours of practice.
Sure. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean they can
New Orleans.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We were very much influenced by New Orleans, especially people like Miles Davis and all that music coming out of Alan Toussaint Studios.
Oh, dude, Minute Studios and Are you kidding me?
No.
Who were the cats? Earl King? I'm trying to think about Toussaint was a legend, but I'm thinking like mid-'60s. I mean, that's right. That's before the meters. What kind of bands were you getting off on that you were hearing coming out?
Well, our favorite bands then locally at that time were all out of New Orleans. Was John Fred and the Playboys, the Boogie Kings, and Cyril Vetter, and I can't think of the name of the band. Cyril Vetter Cyril Vetter wrote a song called "Double Shot of My Baby's Love."
Oh my God!
He took it to the band. Greek Fountains, Cyril Vetter and the Greek Fountains. He took it to the band, and they didn't like it, so they wouldn't record it. And quite a mistake.
Holy cow! So you were getting bleed through radio stations coming up to through Greenville. Is that how you got hip to New Orleans?
Oh yeah, we listened to WLS out of Chicago mostly.
Whoa!
And then Ernie's record shop out of Nashville.
Randy's record shop, wasn't it?
Ernie's.
God, you're blowing my mind right now. This is unreal, man. So when you say they were accomplished players, everyone did their 20,000 hours. You could be shedding, and you could just say, "Hey, let's let's play, take 5, and you guys could just swing the tune?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, this is unreal.
Coming home, and let's do Coming Home in G minor, and then Walking. We call it Walking on it. So we da 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 da, and then after that we just walk. Just go somewhere wherever it took. That was buying time to get your throat cleared.
I mean, so is there a seminal, like before Eternity's Children, when you were still, the jock playing sports? I mean, was there a time when you just fell? I mean, maybe you fell on your face a few times, but where did you really learn and to the confidence to stretch and to play yourself and to learn how to not repeat? I mean, again, it's about small vamps. No one is, not everybody's John McLaughlin, Mahavishnu Orchestra. That's a little. I mean, but you're dropping names like Billy Cobham. I mean, dude, Billy's a dear friend. I've done about 9 interviews with Billy, and I mean, that music is pretty sophisticated stuff. So where do you think? Where was your earliest time? Maybe you look back and laugh at it, or you don't want to even think about it. But when did you first start to say, well, I'm just kind of done playing the song the same way it is on the record. I want to stretch. When did you learn to do that?
Oh, that was probably, roughly around the 10th grade in high school. I just started, and I was also writing. I was never really interested in copy songs, although only from the standpoint of the people that I admired.
Absolutely, dude.
And it always took me to stuff that was more sophisticated. There was so many hit records, just all the da 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 da. That didn't interest me at all, any of that kind of stuff. And I got into listening to Burt Bacharach and discovering flat 5s and 13s and raised 9s. And,
I love it, dude.
That's where my head went.
Man, dude. I mean, were you into like Hank Ballard and the Midnighters and those cats?
I don't think I recall.
That's more like R&B, like that. Those cats were like late 50s, early Dyke and the Blazers. Some of that stuff was like that preceded James Brown in some ways.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what I was into, because when I was in high school, my little band was called the Phantoms, and we went to Memphis and recorded at Stax. I recorded with Steve Cropper and Booker T.
Wait. Let's just stop right there. The Fountains.
Pardon?
What was the name of the band?
Phantoms.
The Phantoms.
The high school band was the Phantoms.
Okay, so this is like 64, 60. What year is this?
63, 64, 65.
Was it called Stax at that time? I mean, I interviewed Cropper. He took me through the whole Stax story, but I know Chip's moment.
Yeah.
So it was fully.
Stax,
I mean, the movie. It was that movie theater with the record store in the front.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So how did that come about?
Well, we ran into this guy named Seymour Rosenberg, who managed a guy named Chuck, who we had never heard of. And Seymour invited us up he had heard us play at a wedding and thought we were real good. And he was looking for a backup band for Charlie Rich, who had a hit song out at the time called Mohair Sam.
I'm sorry. You're kidding me. He was managing Charlie Rich?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And Charlie was a piano player, but he was always too drunk to play. So they wanted. So I played. We toured basically in the South on tour with Charlie, and Seymour was in with Stax. He had a little studio right next to it called Rolando Studios, and they used that for people that Stax were maybe thinking about signing, but they let them go in Rolando and record. And then, based on what happened, decide if they wanted to sign. That was kind of the setup that they had.
Dude, Rolando?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so epically classic. So you toured with Rich and
Dallas Frazier.
And Dallas Frazier.
Fast talking, slow walking. No, his was Elvira.
Oh,
this
my.
Was before the country guys covered it.
And so you got back to Memphis, and they were like, yeah, let's give these cats a run at Rolando and see what they got with original stuff?
Well, no, it didn't really happen like that. We were not signed with Stax. We just recorded in Stax some of our own stuff on some of their off time. And then this one guy that was in the band at the time named Lonnie, he left. And Stax was starting a label for white artists called Hip. And the label was Hip. And Lonnie Duvall was the first act that they signed to be on the Hip label, and he had several records out, but they did not hit at the time.
I mean, I cannot wait. Can you talk? I just need you to talk about this because you're telling me in 1964, Stax was already basically like, okay, we're playing. You know, we need to appeal to a white audience, so we need to get a label for white bands.
That's exactly right.
Because I know Motown did that. I have a couple Motown records, and they're just like these whites. And I mean, the music's pretty good. But what was the concept there that they wanted to appeal to white audiences? That Booker T and the MGs as a mixed race band was not, or that was.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just Booker T. I mean, they had Wilson Pickett and.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine. I thought they had a bunch of.
I mean, just a ridiculous roster. Absolutely. Yeah. Al Green. Yeah.
But they were considered R&B. So when you go in a record store, you know, if it was blacks in it, then that part of the record store was R&B. You weren't in the other part. So they wanted to have a white label, and so they named it Hip, so that could be in the other parts and not in the R&B section.
I dig it. I dig. And Lonnie Duvall. These are names that you're totally opening me up to a whole new vector here. I mean, it's really
just get on YouTube and type in Lonnie Duvall. It's Duvall. Lonnie is his first name. He was my next door neighbor in Greenville, Mississippi, and you'll see she's a streetwalker, cigarettes, several coming up on the Hip label. Those are not actual videos; they just show the record and the label, and the song plays. And that's Steve Cropper and Booker T and everybody's playing on that stuff.
So they would go in and record. Those cats that were at Stax, Al Jackson, Duck Dunn, those cats. They'd go into Orlando and cut albums with the white bands too.
No, they didn't go in. It wasn't Orlando. Orlando, that was just like a practice recording place.
Okay, then when you were ready to...
Hip label, when you look those up, look up Lonnie Duvall, you'll see it's Hip label, and it says produced by Steve Cropper.
Right.
On there, so that was recorded in the Stax.
That's right. They passed that initial test at Rolando, and they went into Stax. I did.
That's right.
So you guys kind of came...
You could call Orlando a demo studio.
And is that with an R? Rolando or Orlando?
Orlando.
Wow. So you guys... as the Phantoms came off the road with Charlie and Dallas, and you got a little bit of time in the studio. You recorded some tunes, and then and are those tunes available out anywhere? Are they circulating?
Yeah. I would get into that. I'll tell you, one of the first places we recorded, when we were in Biloxi, we had a gig over in Pensacola, Florida. You know, it's just that coast. You're talking New Orleans.
Man, I'm loving it. This is the Blackman. This is just like the best zone ever. Absolutely.
Well, does that whole stretch? Well, this guy named Papa Don Schroeder came in and heard us. So he invited studio there in Pensacola, which was Amy Malabelle Studios.
Oh my God.
And he had that, I'm your puppet, pull another string, and I'm your puppet. Whoever, I don't remember the act. But we recorded some stuff with him. And interestingly enough, the head of Amy Malabelle was a guy named Larry Udall. And Larry Udall ended up selling Amy Malabelle to an investment group headed up by Clive Davis.
Wow.
And they changed the label to Aris. Larry Udall then went and started a record company called Private Stock. So we ended up, when I did Moonlight Feels Right, every major label, including Clive Davis, turned it down. But I found out about Larry Udall was at Private Stock, and we had cut, for Amy Malabelle, we had cut a song that Laura Nero wrote called Thigh's Coming before Three Dog Night did it.
What?
And it turned his children did.
Oh my God!
And in fact, the Three Dog Night version sounded just like ours. But anyway, Larry, you'd all love that. So I went in his office with Moonlight Feels Right, and he remembered about us recording Eli's Coming, and that's essentially how Starbuck got the record deal for Moonlight Feels Right.
I didn't think that I didn't think that was possible for. I mean, I've had seminal records that have impacted me. This one is the latest one. I cannot believe it. I mean, were you? You felt now going back a little bit. We're going to. You do Miss Bluebird. It gets some radio play in New Orleans. Did somebody? Because I knew this was very common. I mean, there was no internet back then. People could call you and be like,
no.
"Hey, Bruce, man, you're getting radio play," and you would have no idea. Did that happen to you guys?
Yeah, pretty much. We saw some tip sheets, but it just got played in the Southeast. Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. It was 7-8 states. Did quite well. Usually went top 10 in those markets, but for whatever reason, we didn't know anything. I mean, we were kids.
Sure.
I don't know if a record company was promoting it or not. Didn't know anything. I was just busy writing songs and being a musician,
I dig, brother. No, so that sort of doesn't go anywhere. And then I just want to know, I mean, my favorite time in music is the early 70s. And I mean, Private Stock didn't come your way till probably 75. That album came out in 76. Can you talk a little bit about what you were doing in the early 70s? Like you must, were you playing live? Were you disenchanted with music? What were you doing?
No, we were playing live at Starbuck. We put our first version of Starbuck together.
Now, who was in that version?
Well, three of the guys that ended up being in the final version of Starbuck. One of them was Bo Wagner and Johnny Walker from Eternity's Children. Bo Wagner was a vibes marimba player. Bo Wagner also toured with. Where I met Bo Wagner was he came to town. He joined Eternity's Children right after I left. And he joined them because he liked the songs they were recording. When he found out the guy who wrote the songs had left the band, he quit. And then he went on tour. He was Liberace's musical director.
No
Liberace.
Way. No
yes.
way.
So I don't know how he found me pre-internet, but Liberace was playing in Atlanta at the Cobb Civic Center, and Bo Wagner, who I never even heard of before, he called me and invited me to come see Liberace. He said, you can come backstage and meet him. And we weren't really interested, but he was persuasive.
Yeah.
So we went and met with Bo, and he talked about wanting to form a band. And he liked the way I wrote because he thought his vibes in marimba. He always wanted to be in a rock band or a pop band and use his instrumentation.
Dude, this is making my year, dude. I love the fact that he wanted to be in a pop rock band and use these beautiful percussive. I just actually gave my marimba to a dear friend. I can't believe. I just want to be clear. He heard your tune. He heard Eternity's Children music on the radio, and that's how he knew you.
No. They were recording it at Gary Paxton's studio. Bo Wagner played drums on all that association material,
he did.
Along Comes Mary.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was at Gary Paxton's studio out in L.A. Well, the children were in there, and that's when I left. So Wagner joined them, played drums.
Holy
on those sessions. But then when he found out the songs they were recording that I had written, left the band because he wanted to join forces with me because he thought the material that I wrote was simpatico with his. So then we put our first group together. Well, in the meantime, Gary Paxton moved from L.A. to Nashville. So Bo called Gary Paxton, and Paxton said, well, come on up, let's record. So we went to Nashville. This is 1970.
Right.
We went to Nashville, and we recorded an album in 2 days, and we got a deal with RCA through Gary Paxton. Well, the name of our group at that time was Mississippi. That's what we called it.
Dude, are you now
says,
you're doing it. Now we're getting somewhere. I knew it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
RCA said that we couldn't use that name because they were about to sign a band from Australia named Mississippi. So we had to come up with a new name, and I blurted out Starbuck because I had just reread Moby Dick.
Right.
And there's a character in there called Starbuck. Well, the band from Australia that they signed, named Mississippi, changed their name to the Little River Band.
Wow.
You're talking to the Forrest Gump of music,
dude. I just watched that with my daughters the other night, dude. I can't believe you just dropped that movie, man. Honestly, this is mine. Wait a minute. Where is that 1970 Starbuck album? I need that.
I've got it here, but I don't want anybody to hear it because it's not that good.
Oh, I want to hear, dude. I bet it's burning, dude. It must be.
I might send you a couple of tracks off.
Can you please, dude, Bruce? You know what, dude? Because, dude, okay. Like, first of all, I hate labels. Like, but by '76. I mean, you were programming a lot of stuff on stage with all the synths, or was everybody just playing live?
Oh no, we did both. I mean, you did some shows that had lip sync because they didn't even have a sound system. But others we played live. I mean, we had 6 Mini Moogs, a Mellotron, Fender Rhodes, Wurlitzer Electric, Vibes, Marimba, Clavinet.
I'm sorry, this is the hippest band in the world, man. No, so I just want to, because I mean, 1970. I mean, maybe you look back on it and it's not as slick as Moonlight Feels Right, but I mean, it's 1970, 71, 72, 73. There really wasn't a bad album made. I mean, this thing was it was an 8-track studio. Right.
It was from today's audio quality, it doesn't hold up. But
but that it has to, as long as it feels right.
It's like garage band stuff,
So you and Wagner were in the first iteration of Starbuck, and who else was in it?
And Johnny Walker from Eternity's Children.
Johnny Walker, and it was a trio, or was there somebody else?
No, we had a guy named Joe Jackson, not the Joe Jackson,
right?
And Chris Seymour, and that group, RCA ended up. The album never came out. That's a long story. But
so the album never did actually make it in the light of day. Okay.
No, it did not. No. So we broke up. Bo left, went back on tour with Liberace. Then one day he calls me. And he said, "Bruce, you got to come to Lukenbach, Texas."
Oh boy.
And I said, "What for?" He said, "We're putting a band together. It's going to be Starbuck." And he said, "We got a deal with Jose Feliciano. We're going to go on tour with him and back him up." So me and my wife stole what little we had, packed up, and we go to Lukenbach, Texas. Now, in that group was me and Bo, who became Starbuck. The bass player was Bud Cockrell, who is also from Greenville, Mississippi, who was became one of the founding members of Pablo Cruz.
Holy cow.
Now, the drummer for that group, this is Starbuck number 2 in Lukenbach, Texas, was Tommy Aldridge, who became the drummer for this guy that bites the bats' heads.
Oh, freaking Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne. He also played with Whitesnake and Black Oak, Arkansas. He was in. So every member of that group made it into band.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we were out there for about 2 months rehearsing. One night, Jose Feliciano walked in the barn and he went, "Hey, who turned off the damn lights?" And we didn't know if we were supposed to laugh or not.
Well, I don't. I mean, that dude used to yell at Wavy Gravy and say, "Don't put no sugar cubes in my drink, man." He was afraid of getting dosed with acid, I mean, that dude was tripping. So wait, but so Wagner ran across Feliciano and then he pulled out Aldridge. These cats were like local cats that he found? How did he...
Yeah, no, well, they weren't local. They were all... Well, one was from Jackson. There was 2 from California. There was me and Bud Cockrell from Greenville, Mississippi. It's from all... I don't really know how he... As I said, Bo was a hustling dude. And we put all that together. It ended up Jose Feliciano did not go on tour, so that band broke up. And we come back to Atlanta, and we did Starbuck number 3. This time, Bo came back. He came to Atlanta and put a group together, Starbuck. and they were playing at a coffee house type thing, playing jazz and stuff like that. And Bo called me and wanted me to join the group for material,
right.
writing. And, well, the guys that were in the band at that time did not want me in the group. But Bo said, well, screw you. He's the guy that can write the stuff.
Damn.
So I joined that third iteration of Starbuck, and that's the one that's on the back cover of that first album. And then right after that, when Moonlight hit, we had to make one more change because we could not play our own songs live. Because, in the studio I had overdubbed, like just the intro alone to Moonlight Feels Right is 4-part synthesizers. And a mini mode, synthesizers didn't play themselves in those days. You had to play it. And a mini mode was monophonic, one note at a time. That's all you could play. So to play 4 parts, you had to have 4 people to do it.
Wow.
So we had to put a completely different group together to get other keyboard players to be able to play our own music live.
When did
I just dubbed it all myself in the studio, but we couldn't do it live.
So, oh my God, just for the record, Starbuck number 3, Bruce Blackman, keyboards, vocals, Bo Wagner, marimba vibes, percussion, Tommy Strain, lead guitar, Ron Norris, guitar, vocals, Dave Snavely, drums, Sloan Hayes, keyboards, vocals, and Jimmy Cobb, not the drummer, but bass and vocals. Jimmy Cobb played on, I think, Kind of Blue, with Miles, great drummer, rest in peace. I have to believe that there were some radio-friendly tunes on this album, so it must have been like a really kind of buzzkill when you couldn't go on tour right away.
No, what happened, we put that together, and just as we did, we were working at a strip club in Buckhead. This is a real ritzy part of Atlanta.
You were playing Starbuck music for strippers?
Yep.
I mean, this was America at one time. This is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
We were playing all original songs for strippers.
That is so beautiful. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't even care. That to me is so freaking great, because the fact that you were allowed to be creatively in control and play your own tunes, as long as they were dancing and getting off and giving people a good time, nobody cared. I mean, I'm just amazed. What was it, about 4 sets a night?
3. Played 3 long ones, like hour 15 sets.
Oh my God!
But while we were working there, I got a call from this promoter in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, we were making dog money. I'd get $50-$60 a week.
Wow, and that is dog money.
Yeah, in Birmingham, called, and he said it was like on a Wednesday, and he said, I need an opening act. The opening act I had for the show we got Friday night. Something happened to them, they couldn't come in a car wreck or something. And he said, would y'all be willing to come and play? And I said, well, who are we opening for? And he said, ELO.
Wow.
And he said, look, I apologize. All I can pay you is $5,000. But you only have to play 30 minutes. And I thought, $5,000, man, hell, I'm going to buy an aircraft.
Dude, that is so great, man.
So we went to Birmingham. And unbeknownst to us at that time, Moonlight Feels Right was number 1 in Birmingham. That's the city it broke out in.
No
Mike St.
way.
John at WERC in Birmingham had added the record, and it was smoke. We were number 1. And so we played that show opening for ELO, and they were so nice. Man, there's a thing called the rock and roll pecking order. A lot of people, they don't want the opening band to be really good.
Yeah, I dig. These guys, they were so geeked out. They wanted you guys to go off.
Yeah, but ELO wasn't that way.
So they were very uptight. They were uptight.
Oh yeah, I got to spend time with Jeff Lynne. He said, why so many moogs, man? I said, well, we need them to play our song. And he said, which one is that? And I said, Moonlight Feels Right. He said, oh, the mallets, bang up.
The mallets. Wait, hold on. At that point, did you have enough keyboard players to pull that song off?
Yeah, we had just gotten that together, because they had told us that the Moonlight was taken off, but we didn't have any specifics on it. My music publisher, had simply called and said, "Looks like Moonlight's going to be a hit." That's all we knew.
No, I'm going to stop right there because I know you guys were just into the music, but you're also a smart guy. I mean, that research that was just not available, or they just wouldn't tell you that it was taking off now. I mean, that's pretty vague to me. Like
I'll have to back up and tell you what happened.
Okay.
Moonlight Feels Right was released on Private Stock in September of 1975.
I got it.
Now, all Larry Udall was doing was signing singles and just throw them out there, and every now and then one of them would hit. He had a lot of stuff that I thought was horrible, like We Had Joy, We Had Fun, We Had Seasons in the Sun, stuff like that, you know.
Right.
He also had Blondie, but they didn't have any hits on Private Stock. So anyway, they mailed it out to, the top 24 stations in America. Absolutely nothing happened. So Bo and I got together. We bought 500 of our own records from Private Stock.
I love this. How much? How much? They gave you like pennies on the dollar for them. How much did you spend on 500?
We bought them wholesale. They were like 50 cents a piece, something like that. But the record company wouldn't even give them to us. We told them we wanted to go promote radio stations. That's what we did. For 6 weeks, I did Alabama, Mississippi, some of Tennessee. Bo did Florida, the Florida Panhandle, South Carolina, and we just went. We would just drive in. We had an ARB book, and we'd just drive into a station, look for a tower, and then look up in that town and see what their format was, and if it was a format that would fit Moonlight, we would go in the station.
This is so so you weren't performing; you were just dropping records at the station.
That's right. Bo was going one way and I was going the other. We did it.
Dude, this is so. And at that time, would you say that that freeform radio was still pretty strong? I mean, I'm talking like you could hear Preservation Hall Jazz Band, Starbuck into Diodato, or was it that free, or what was it?
Yeah, speaking of Diodato, we used to play a lot of that too.
I know, I know. Dude, you guys are the nastiest band. I cannot believe what I'm hearing. This is so freaking amazing. So, I mean, were there, and so ultimately, how many stations, you'd see towers, but were there what stations? I mean, obviously the one in Birmingham, was that more a pop rock?
Well, that was the last one. What we did was, almost all these little stations. A lot of them had. You were just like you were mentioning, Preservation Jazz Hall, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
They had called a variety format.
Right.
Stations.
Right.
You didn't have all that crap. Ryan Seacrest recorded and it's on 900 stations.
Garbage, dude. Garbage.
Exactly.
That's called free. It's called variety, freeform. It's called brilliant, enlightening, big ear radio, dude.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we would just go in the stations, and there was like 400 stations playing it, but they're all small.
Right.
It wasn't enough to move the needle. Well, I was coming back from Mobile, Alabama, and they, no luck there at all. No big station even got in at all. They're not going to put you on air. It's not going to happen. But I had one record left, and I looked up WERC in Birmingham. So I went in, and I knew that was a big station. I started not to do it because it had zero luck. Big station.
Dude, it's your last record, man. I love this, man.
Mike St. John. This was in October of 1975.
Oh, my God.
And I got in to see Mike St. John, who was the PD there. And he played the record. He turned around and he said, "Man, this is a great record." He said, "This ain't a winter record." He said, "This is a spring record." He said, "I'm going to put it on the air next spring." Well, I thought that was just a nice way of saying no.
Right.
Son of a gun, 6 months later, he puts it on the air in Birmingham,
right,
and his phones blew up. So he called Private Stock and said, "Man, this song is a hit." So Private Stock decided to do a test market in Birmingham, and they sold 25,000 records in 10 days in Birmingham.
What now? When that they would bring it to the local places that people would buy. I mean, back then it was like Woolworths or Five and Dime stores or even record shops. They'd put the records. Yeah. They'd flood the stores and see if people bought them.
Yeah. You had then what you had like called one-stop distributors that were covering certain parts of an area, usually 2 or 3 states, something like that. They just got the one-stop and, pressed up 25,000 copies and put them in there, and the distributor then gets them out to all the locations that they have. Probably about 50 or 60, something like that, in Birmingham. And it blew up. Well, then they knew it was a hit. They went, okay, well, if it'll sell 25,000 in Birmingham, it'll sell 250,000 in Baltimore.
That's right. They got the analytic. They got the bean counters got involved.
That's it.
My God! Wait. First of all, how much wattage that station carried all the way through different states? The one in Birmingham, or
ERC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge station.
You said it was, but I mean, what does that mean? Could you pick that up down in Atlanta, or no?
You probably could, staticky. It was akin to a WLS in Chicago.
I did. So basically, you were bleeding through to all different states.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that did it, and it just blew up after that. And the next thing I knew, we were doing TV shows.
So I just want to be clear. This is so you go there with the record. He goes, man, this is a springtime jam, man. And so you go back. You're playing strip clubs. And then you call your publisher in the spring or summer the following year, and the guy's like, "Yo, we're getting some traction." And then the ELO gig came along.
That's it. That's the chronology of
it.
Right
my!
there.
This is. How did you? Can I actually, in hindsight, looking back on it, what did you and Bo feel at that time? I mean, aside from exhilaration, it must have.
Oh my God!
It's sort of like an almost famous. It's freaking like Field of Dreams kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was just floating on air. My wife and I had been married for 7 years. We had nothing. I was driving a car I bought for $99 at the gas station. Had to crank it with a screwdriver.
I love it.
Attorney calls me one day, right in the middle of this, and he said, "Bruce," he said, "ASCAP wants to sign you." He said, "They'll give you an advance on your royalties." He said, "All I can get out of them is $25,000. Do you want to take the deal?"
Damn, dude.
I went, what? So that afternoon, I actually they wired the money, and I picked up to my attorney's office, and I picked up a check. And, we went out and bought a Volvo, a car that had just come out, nobody ever heard of, a Honda Civic.
Oh, boy.
We bought our first washing machine, dishwasher, vacuum cleaner, and after all that, we had like $10,000. I thought we were just absolutely rich, because we had nothing before then.
This gives me hope for humanity. I mean, this is the reason why I got this message from Bruce Blackman this morning. Sure, I'd love to do an interview. Got so fired up. I mean, this story is so far beyond that and I know, it's actually, for that time period in music, it wasn't completely unusual, It happened that way for some cats. I mean, everyone was a little bit different. But I just want to be clear. Do you look... I know you were starving to death and, making it with a car for $99. And I probably would have jumped at that deal too. But in retrospect, was it the right move to get that advance? Or should you have...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely it was. Because it wasn't... It was an advance against... ASCAP collects royalties for writers. Doesn't have anything to do with the record company.
Right.
So yeah, it was. I was cleared out of that in 3 months.
Dude, this is But then you're flying on cloud 9, the ELO gig, and then were you able to get some real? I know you made a few albums after that, but what did you start to do domestic touring, like all across the country?
Oh yes, we toured with. Man, I can't even... Pretty much everybody you think of from the 70s, from, let's see, Atlanta Rhythm Section, Seals and Croft, England Dan, John Ford Coley. We played with Styx, with... I can't even begin to...
Dude, the fact that you just said the Atlanta Rhythm Section, that just warms my heart, dude. Those freaking cats, man.
I knew them all well. We recorded in the same studio.
Oh, man, dude. Yeah, I interviewed
Studio
there.
One, where we recorded in Doraville, Georgia, was recording 3 bands there. Leonard Skinner, Atlanta Rhythm Section in Starbuck.
What was the name of the recording studio?
Studio One in Doraville, Georgia. That's the Atlanta Rhythm Section song, Doraville, just a country inn. That's what that's about.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so that's where this was. By the way, Mike Clark, who is this cat?
He was A&R guy for Lowry Music Publishing.
Right, or for Bill Lowry. I dig.
Yeah.
I dig. And so Blackman, and then my only other thing is, the band at first was hesitant. They didn't want you in the band because I'm just looking at this. Every song you have publishing on every song except Bordello Bordeaux. Is that why
right.
I mean, why were they hesitant to have you in the band?
No, this was before we had recorded anything. No, Bo Wagner, that third version of Starbuck, Bo Wagner put it together.
That's right. They just didn't know who you were. Yeah.
Under the name Extravaganza at a jazz place called the Moorings. And they didn't want, and Bo wasn't thinking about that. That was just to get everybody a paycheck so they could live. Bo had rented a farmhouse out in Sandy Springs, Georgia, and they all lived in the farmhouse, all of them. And Bo wanted me in the band because of material for writing. Well, they didn't, because all they were thinking about, well, I'll have to take a pay cut. Because you know the way it was back then. If you had a 5-piece band and you were making $500 a week, if you went to a 6-piece band, you didn't get more money.
Hey, it's just so great that you
to a 4-piece.
Yeah.
They'd cut you back.
That's right. No, you're 100 when you're nailing. This is exactly what it was at that time. Any of the, I'm just going to read these tunes off, and I just want to know if any of these, because I'm still obsessed with that original Mississippi band that eventually became Starbuck. Any of these songs, what's the earliest one that you wrote? I Got to Know, Drop a Little Rock, Lash LaRue, The Slower You Go.
Rock and Roll Rocket was the first one. I wrote and recorded that song by myself in 1974.
Rock and Roll Rock. No, so you're telling me that was on the album that RCA never released?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's on the second Starbuck.
Yeah, I just want to read. I want to read through these tunes, and you let me know which one is the earliest one you wrote.
Okay.
I Got to Know, Drop a Little Rock, Lash LaRue, The Slower You Go, Moonlight Feels Right, I'm Crazy, So the Night Goes, Working My Heart to the Bone, Lucky Man.
The first song, I wrote 2 songs in one night in February of 1974. They were Moonlight Feels Right and Rock and Roll Rocket.
Rock and Roll Rocket.
Which is on the second Starbuck.
The second Starbuck. I mean, I'm only just still marinating in the first one, dude.
Dude, I've got an album coming out. The release date is August 30th. It's Starbuck 2022.
Oh, my.
I recorded 2 songs on there that I wrote in 1967 for Eternity's Children. I recorded 3 songs on there that I wrote in 1974 for Starbuck that we never recorded. And then the rest of them I wrote in the past 2 or 3 years.
When is that album being released?
August 30th.
Dude, okay. Let's do set 2 to promote that in August. I want to do set 2 with you. And you're telling me that the tunes that are coming up on Starbuck 22 have never seen the light of day.
No, that's right.
And you wrote them from 67
I wrote 2 of them in 1967 for Eternity's Children, and I wrote some in 1974 for Starbuck, but those bands never recorded these songs. The rest of the songs, there's 12 songs, so the rest of them are very recent.
Let me just ask you, though. Please tell me everybody was in the studio hitting at one time, and they were all one take.
No.
Because you know what? I hate modern recorded music.
Yeah, well, I will tell you this.
Yeah.
I recorded tape.
Then you did it. Then you did fine. Because then it will feel warm. It will feel warm. That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Now, what I do is from edit, back in the old day, how many times I would cut a song and I go, damn, man, we should have done that chorus again after the third verse. Well, the only way you could do that was to start all over.
Right.
And a recording is that moment in time, and you can never, ever do it exactly that way again. But now what I do, when I've recorded the tape, I put it in Pro Tools for editing, because if I want to move something, I can do that.
Absolutely.
Without re-record, but it does not affect the analog sound because it originated analog.
And please tell me you did not have a click track, that you had a real human being playing drums.
No click track.
Thank God.
No
You are one of the tastiest dudes ever, man. This is ridiculous. Now, as we wrap up set one here with Bruce Blackman, can you just talk about what inspires you today? I mean, I'm 40. I know you're just getting hip to my show, but I'm pretty connected to my elders, and I'm definitely connected to my peers, and I think that not everyone, but for a lot of people, they were on a bit of a glide path before COVID hit, and I don't even mean getting wealthy. Clearly, based on our first interview, you guys, it took a minute, but you finally got some dough. But what still inspires you today to continue to create? Because I just think that there's a lot of cats out there, because the paradigm has changed. The domestic touring circuit has changed. There are not as many venues. And I think in some cases, if you want to be a road dog, if you were doing stuff before, you might be playing the same venues. Or you might be playing the same venues you played 5 years ago. But somehow, you got to get out of your own way and cook the groove. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what still inspires Bruce Blackman today.
What inspires me is people. I have spoken at more songwriting seminars than you can imagine. They say, where do you get your ideas from? And I go, shh, listen. Just listen. One of the songs on the new album is called You're the Reason. But it's written from about back in the days when you used to go parking and make out with a girl.
Right.
But the song is written from the viewpoint of the dashboard hula girl. That kind of stuff.
You've been doing that for years.
I always look for that.
Yeah.
That stopper, drop dead chord somewhere, or stopper line. What I call it. Like in Moonlight Feels Right, it was for Southern Bells of Hell at Night.
Absolutely.
What's a stopper line? That's what I look for, and just listening, just listen. The songs are everywhere. They're floating in the sky.
A stopper line is like people just all of a sudden you got their attention. They may not have been paying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, that's the one everybody yells out when it comes up.
Do you think, though, when you're at these, that stuff kind of happens in almost a flow state? You can't say you necessarily sit down and write stopper lines. Sometimes
no.
So basically,
I'll give you an example.
Give
you an example.
Yeah.
One of the new songs on the album coming out is called My Sombrero. And I was in the garage, and my wife came out. She said, "What is that you're singing?" I wasn't even aware I was singing. And I was singing, "Dancing in the mirror with myself, looking good in my sombrero." She said, "I like that. What is that?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Well, you should go write it. That's cool." Mm-hmm. So I did. So, where did that come from? I don't know.
Well, no, but do you talk to the the people at the seminars and say, don't overcomplicate it, put yourself in the right space? And then sort of let it come through you? How do you get, because it's not like you're...
Write what you know.
Right.
Write what you experience. What do you see? What do you hear? And put that person on your shoulder. Don't write lyrics. You paint lyrics.
Paint on a palette, dude.
That's right. Oh. You don't tell them. You show them. That's what you do. That's what good lyrics are about.
Is Bo Hansen still with us?
Bo Wagner.
Bo Wagner.
No, he died in 2017.
God bless, dude. Jesus, what a genius, dude. What's his legacy? Because that dude sounded like one of the coolest freaking cats. What's his legacy to American music?
Well, his just virtually every music school in America, in their mallet department, the mallet players, the test is, can you play the solo in Moonlight Feels Right?
Oh, dude, I'm just going to
They use it at Juilliard.
That is so insanely classic. And that was totally one take on the spot.
One take. Absolutely.
Bruce Blackman, I'm going to get this up later tonight. I'll send you a copy. But let's do set 2 before and promote the new album coming out, man. I absolutely love hanging with you, man. It's been such an honor.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, and I'll be glad to do it.
Beautiful, brother. Bless you, man. I'll give you a copy of this later. And if you have a couple of, if you have any, MP3s of that Mississippi band that you want to send my way, I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, you just email me.
I'll send you my email and then just send it over.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
All right, man. Much love, Bruce. Take care, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Bye, man.